Welcome down, everyone, to another episode of Those Nerds You Know. My name is Ethan.
My name is Scott.
And we are Those Nerds You Know. Ugh, and I just remembered Eddie's not here to do his spiel. Sorry, listeners, Eddie is not here. So instead of him telling you what this podcast is, I'm going to tell you what it is. We're a podcast where we talk about all the nerdy stuff we like. We often talk about movies, comic books, manga, anime, video games, TV shows, and things of that nature. If it's nerdy and you like it, you can probably find it here somewhere. And this week, we're going to be talking to you about a wonderful little game on the Switch. Well, it's on basically everything, actually. But I've been playing it on the Switch called Moonlighter. And I recently finished it, which is why we're talking about it now. But it came out a while back. Let me see.
May 29th, I think. But it came out on the Switch in November.
Right, yes. So it came out last year. It was on my list. I don't know if it was a ranked member of my list or if it was just a honorable mention, but it made my conversation for Game of the Year for 2018 for me personally. I loved it, and I've recently finished the main story bit, so I feel like I'll go more in depth into it now and talk about it. Scott, you haven't heard anything about this, right? Or
no, and I was actually going to ask, does it have a full story, or does it like continuously move on? Because it seemed like it had kind of the same aspect of like a lot of the other side-scrolling or top-down mobile games and stuff that you can just keep dungeon crawling and stuff like that.
You can dungeon crawl indefinitely, but there is a story to it. You play as Will, who owns a little shop in the town, and he fills this shop by going into dungeons, killing monsters, collecting their loot, and then bringing them back and selling them. So it's like if you were Link, like if you were playing Legend of Zelda, only like you had to make sure you like made money every day by selling stuff. So it's top down like old Zelda games. Combat similar to that. It's nothing too intricate. You have a health bar, and your health changes or can be benefited by what you're wearing, your armor or your weaponry. There are like 5 different types of weapons. You can use the shield and sword. You can use the spear. You can use the big ol' sword. You can use the fisticuffs, or you can use a bow and arrow. And at any given time, you can have 2 weapons on you and switch between them. My preference ended up being the sword and shield because it was a way to block, and I'm not very good at dodging, and I'm very bad at most games in general, so just having something that allowed me to soak damage was very good. And then the bow and arrow was also great because I could shoot at things from a distance, which is great. And so there are 5 dungeons in total. You start out with just the first one open, and as you beat dungeons, a new dungeon will open. The dungeons are procedurally generated, so every time you go into them, they will be different. But there are a couple of things like that will always be the same, or there are 3 levels to the dungeons, and at the end of the 3rd level, there's a boss. And on each level, there is always one room that's like a healing room, where there's a fountain that'll heal you. Whenever you find that, you know you're on the right track towards the next floor. So that's the same every time. You'll always find the fountain in the direction of the next floor. But aside from that, it's procedurally generated. So you'll get different rooms with different allotments of enemies or layouts or traps. A lot of rooms will have treasure chests full of good treasure after you beat all the monsters. And the fountain room, and there's also usually one room of left like an abandoned camp of previous like heroes or something, because there's like a history of people going into these dungeons and fighting the monsters there, but the town just lost a whole lot of people to it. A lot of people were never seen again, never heard from, or presumed dead. So they started boarding up the dungeons, and so the only one that you can go into at first is like a really, really simple golem dungeon. And they only yes.
How is the dungeons generated? Is it are you like So for a lot of games that I've seen with like procedurally built dungeons and stuff, sometimes they were dependent upon like the difficulty that you were in or the level of the dungeon that you're in, and a lot of times those things will start to look very redundant. Like the dungeon will start to look the same. Is that something that you see in Moonlighter as well?
So to answer your first question, the dungeons are always going to have the same sort of types of rooms, and so each dungeon has a theme, and the monsters will always be a certain level, not any more difficult than than the last time you were there. So the first dungeon is the Golem dungeon. A lot of the monsters in there are rocks or golems made out of rocks and things of that nature. Things that'll shoot stuff at you, and there are probably 10 different enemies in each dungeon. And each dungeon gets progressively more difficult. So the Golem dungeon is the easiest dungeon. Once you beat it, the only unique monster in it is the boss. Once you beat the boss, it will not come back. But everything else just comes back. It doesn't feel too repetitive until, like, if you're taking your time with a dungeon, it can get repetitive because you'll see the same, like, you'll see certain patterns over and over. You won't see the same layout every time. But, like, compare it to like playing Betrayal at House on the Hill. If any of you listeners have played that board game, it's like a modular board game where every time you play it, the way you explore will make the house a different layout each time. But they're all the same. The same rooms will be in it every time, and certain rooms can only be on certain floors. Yada yada yada. It's comparable to that.
That makes sense.
There's a lot of rooms that'll be the same. There's a lot of rooms that will only happen once, but you'll probably see them every time you go through. Things of that nature. And each dungeon gets progressively more difficult, essentially meaning that the monsters hit you harder and are harder to kill. Basic stuff. And the way you deal with that is by saving up some money and finding the right equipment to get your blacksmith to forge better armor or weapons for you. And with each new dungeon, you are allowed new materials to get new stuff from the blacksmith. When you take this stuff back into town, you go into your little shop, you set things up, and during the day you can sell. And it's fun because you can get little upgrades for your shop. You can get upgrades for the town. If your shop's doing well, if you have enough money, you can get a little enchantress lady to come, and she makes potions and enchants weaponry. You can get the blacksmith to come, who'll make you weaponry and armor. You can get another merchant to come who sells stuff that you can find in the dungeons at pretty ridiculous prices. But like if you'd rather just pay to get something easily rather than go into the dungeon, you can do that.
So is that like are you like kind of like the mayor of this town, or do you just have a lot of pull because you're like
exactly?
A really
you just have pull because you're the
shop?
You're the main like industry in the town, really.
Yeah, because it seems like as you get your shop in gear and like you get better goods and everything, it entices people to come and bring in their own stuff that you could then also sell for a profit. That's pretty cool. So you're almost like you're building up this town's adventure mall, basically.
Yes. That is essentially what you're doing.
That's pretty chill.
It's cool. You can get another guy that'll come in and he'll make little stuff you can use to decorate your shop, which will give you different effects. So like some things will make customers more generous and they'll give you a little tip. And some of them will bring one extra customer to the shop every time you're open, or allow you to stay open longer, or ward off thieves. I hate thieves. They're the worst. There are people who...
Do they actually steal from your store?
Yes, they'll literally come in, they'll look around a bit, and then they'll go to a table, they'll pick up one of the items you have there, and they'll attempt to walk out with it. You can catch up to them and press ZL in time, and you'll like dive into them and tackle them, and you'll take your stuff back and kick them out. That's sometimes easier said than done. So the shop at first is pretty simple. You've just got one table and it's got like 4 spaces, and you set your stuff out there. You decide what price you want to sell, and then you start selling it. This is where like the real intricacy of the game is in you selling stuff and keeping inventory and managing your inventory. So you put something out to sell, and then you pay attention to what people do when they come up. They'll walk up to it, they'll look at it, and there'll be a little indicator above their head, which will make one of 4 faces or one of 5 faces. One face is like way angry, and they won't buy it at all. One face is just really sad at how expensive it is. Another face is like, okay, this is fine. They'll buy that. Another face is like, this is way good. This is real cheap. And then they'll buy that. I think that was 5. It might have been 4 faces. Anyway, so based off that, you can raise or lower your prices. And it starts off small.
I really like... Mm-hmm. I was going to say, I really like that aspect of it because it kind of like... You're kind of like controlling the economy of your town as well doing that. And it's a little bit like an online market or a stock market or whatever, because like you don't want to sell things too expensively because they're not going to buy it, and you don't want to sell them too cheaply because you're not going to get enough profit that you'd like. It reminds me of what is it called? Animal Crossing. Kaylee's been playing Animal Crossing, and they get the same kind of responses for people that are selling the stuff that she sells in her store. Only difference being is that sometimes if they see something that they don't like, you can, if you like move your character, you can kind of nudge them into another item. And so what she'll do, she'll nudge them to each one of her items until they find the one that they do like. And then she's like, yeah, you should totally buy this one. She does it
I like that.
Every time she walks in, she does that. She's like, you're looking for some stuff. I'm just going to nudge them over here and nudge them over there. So they're like, wow, this is a great deal. Should I buy this? She's like, oh yeah, I think you totally should.
That's good. I like that. That's fun.
It's funny because the store, like the person, she doesn't own the store. Somebody else owns the store, but she can sell her own stuff in it. And so every time they ask her about something that isn't hers, if they want to buy it, she's like, no, that's not really a good deal. Like even if it totally is, she's like, yeah, you should keep looking. And they're
that's
like,
fun.
oh, okay,
I love that that's
you,
an option. That's really funny.
So
that's good.
I think that should be like an option for you as well. Like if somebody walks into something and you're like, is this a good deal? You're like, oh yeah, totally a good deal.
I would just like to be able to like nudge them towards something else, because a lot of people, if they'll see something, if the price isn't right, they'll just get angry and they won't look at anything else. They'll just leave. I'm like, just
walk out,
please. Or like if I had the option to like just change the price right there with them there.
Yeah. Or like, be able to like go on a deal with them. They're like, oh, I want it for 30. You're like, I'm going to give it 20. I'll give it to you for 35. You're like, 20. You're like, no.
Yeah, that would be cool. The other thing that happens is like as you acquire these things in the dungeon, it like ranks them, but it doesn't give you. So it'll say like the bottom will be like, oh, this is 50 gold, or this line is 50 gold, very bottom, and then it'll stack items up towards the next line. The next line will be like 250, and then the line above that will be like 500, but it's like there's like 25 items between those, so you have somewhat of an idea of which things are more expensive than other things, but you don't have, it doesn't spell it out for you, so you have to sort of figure that out on your own.
There isn't already like an economy set up that tells you like a standard price of goods and everything. That's cool. I think that if you had one of those, it would make the game not quite as fun, because I think a lot of that aspect is just learning it from the selling aspect.
Yes. There's a lot of try and fail and learn, and that's
so
a lot of fun too.
About the thieves. You were talking about the thieves and how it's harder for you later on.
It's harder later on because as you improve your shop, so you get more spaces and more people come in. So at the beginning, there's just 4 spaces, and it's easier to see everybody. You know who's there, who's not. You know when because the thief will have a little symbol above his head when he first walks in. Not the whole time he's there, but when he first walks in, you'll be able to see that, oh, he's a thief. I need to watch him. But that goes away in like a second. So if you don't catch it when you're first there, you might lose some stuff. But the good thing is the thief characters are all repeat characters. So like there's a point in time where I know that person's character design, that is a thief. It's so I get used to them. It's like, hey Bob, I know you're gonna steal something. Don't steal. Oh, why are you stealing? Oh, okay, fine. And you have to fight him and get his stuff. And but it gets harder as you go on. There are 4 upgrades I think you can buy. So you start off with, like I said, with one table that has 4 slots. Eventually you get to 18 slots. So you have 2 in the front, 1 on either side of the door. Then you have 2 tables of 4 right after that. Then 2 tables of 2, and then in the back 2 tables of 2 as well. But they're like They're like, I think they're steel proof. They're display cases, like so covered in glass and things. Those are in the very back. So that's where I put my real expensive stuff that I really don't want people to steal. But it's interesting. It's so satisfying to watch your own revenue grow. Like at first you're pulling in maybe a couple hundred gold a day. And it was a couple weeks ago that I broke 1 million. And so like I brought in 1 million gold in a day, and I was like, yeah. It's really cool. It's really fun. And there are other things that you have to pay attention to. Like some items will become more popular at a certain time than others. Some will get unpopular. At that point, you either need to stop selling them or just put them on sale.
Are you selling these things to like townsfolk, or are you selling them to like adventurers? Because you said you're like doing like enchanted weapons and blacksmith and stuff.
It's a mix of both. I don't often sell weapons. I can start doing so now. I was always very sort of hoarder-ish with my weapons because they're harder to come by. Occasionally they'll be dropped in the dungeon. They're very rare in the dungeon, but they're very expensive. Like most of your weaponry and armor is real expensive, especially later on in the game, the more intense ones. So I don't sell those usually unless I have lots of spares, or unless I specifically went through the act of making one to sell, because those would be real expensive, and I can sell them for a lot. But I do just find getting like the really good drops from the monsters in the dungeons, and just throwing those up, and people will buy them 5 and 10 at a time, and that's a good amount of money. So nice. I do all right there.
So I imagine the difficulty for thieves is that you're going to be in the back of the store sometimes. That thief's going to be right at the front.
So you have to be
no, Bob, no.
Yes, you have to be behind the counter for a good while, because people will line up to buy stuff, and if you're not prompt enough to check them out, they will just take the item and leave.
Quote unquote prompt. I just imagine your character like bum rushing this guy, jumping over aisles and stuff. You're like, no, stop.
Yes. Yeah. So the register's in the back, and you have to be back there to help customers, and so you have to plan it for like, okay, how many people can I help before I really have to dash out and get this guy? And then later on, you start being able to take commissions from people. They'll be like, hey, can you kill this many of this monster, or can you bring me 5 of this loot? By this day.
So you dish out quests, kind of?
Yes.
Like collecting quests?
You can take them. Yes, they'll come and request those things, and you can take up to 3 at a time. And it's usually like 3 to 4 to 5 days from that day. You'll go out and do it, or they'll require it from you, which is good. That helps a lot because they generally pay much more than whatever items you would get typically. What people would normally pay for whatever it is they're getting you. So that's good. You asked if it was adventurers or townsfolk. It's both. You'll have adventurers come in, or big guys in like big suits of armor and swords and helmets and stuff, and come in and look at your stuff. And then other people will just be like a little farm person, or an old lady, or an old man. So yeah, eventually, I think it's with like your 2nd or 3rd upgrade, you get a shop assistant.
Ooh. That's pretty cool.
I don't really care about it. They don't do anything that they don't do anything that I would want them to be doing, and they're not very helpful. Like,
what do they do?
So
they just sit there and look pretty?
The reason it's invented is because you don't have to open your shop every day. You can instead choose to go and dungeon dive during the day as well as at night, but that will spend the day. So like if you go into a dungeon during the day, whenever you come out of that dungeon, it will be night again. Same with the night. When at nighttime you go into the dungeon, you come out, it'll be daytime. When you open your shop at any point during the day, you sell, and then once you're done selling, once the shop closes, it'll be nighttime. So if you want to dungeon dive during the day, but you don't want to lose money, or you want to still make some money, you can have this shop assistant sell for you during the day while you are in the dungeon. However, they take 30% cut. And I was like, nah, I just
30%.
I didn't even ask for you to be here. I'm not gonna give you
like highway
that
robbery.
chunk. It's a lot of money, and I'm like, yeah, I understand paying an employee, but I didn't even hire you. You just showed up. You were just here one day. So I'm never I understand the need for that. I think would be if you're trying to make a deadline and you know you're not going to be able to do it at night, or with the nights that you have left. So you're going to have to dungeon dive during the day, but you still want to make money. So you'll be like, hey, watch the shop for me while I go try and get more stuff for these quests. I get that. But I've never really been put in that predicament. And I mean, I wasn't that good at the quests to begin with, but I've learned tricks since then. I've gotten better. And even if I don't have them all, I can go to the other merchant and be like, hey, I need 2 or 3 of these things, and I'll spend a stupid amount of money on them. But usually I'll make my money back whenever the person comes in and pays for them all from me. Or I'll look at the price and I'll look at what I would be getting from them if they come in, and I'll be like, that's not worth it, so I just won't. I'll just fail the quest just because it's not worth my time. And I know I'll make the money back very quickly just by having a normal day, a normal sale day.
So you don't use your assistant, you just let them chill around then?
The other thing they do is while it's open, they patrol around and help fight off thieves. Problem there is that their pathfinding towards the thieves is not very good. They travel at the same speed as the thief, so if they're not real close to the thief or somewhere between the thief and the door, they won't catch the thief and the thief will head out. So I can't even trust them to do that. What I would prefer is that AI just sit behind the counter and sell. Because all you have to do is when they come up and put something on the counter, you just press A to sell. That's it. If they could just sit back there and do that and then let me patrol, and because I have to physically leave the counter to go back up to the table to restock items once people buy things. So if someone buys something off my table, I have to sell it to them, so I have to be behind the counter to sell, and then I have to rush out and put something back out on the table before someone else comes up and buys something. So I have to plan that out, right? So really, the assistant isn't giving me any greater peace of mind, because if a thief walks in, I then have to make sure I'm watching the thief, selling stuff, and then I need to check and see where my assistant is, because if she's not where she needs to be, then I'll have to make sure that I can get out in time to stop this thief.
That is so dumb.
That's so nerve-wracking. So
that's like the people in retail that are just like, yeah, I'm not getting paid enough for this job, so I'm just going to let this guy walk out. I'm like, but you are. You're getting paid 30%. like CEOs don't even get paid 30% of sales.
Oh, man. And so, so I'm just like, you're just not here to really help. Like, why are you, what are you doing?
It would be kind of cool if you could, change their... if you could change their tactics a little bit, like in Final Fantasy.
Yeah, if you could, in 12, give them a gambit, yeah.
Yeah, just be like, oh, if a thief walks in, this is what you do. Or if someone...
You stand at the front door and you punch them in the face.
Leave the door.
Yes. So that's why I've also had to get... It's made me more cautious about what I put out where. So like the 2 tables by the very front door, I put out crap. Like, it's nothing expensive goes on those, because if the thief decided to take those, there's no way I'd be able to get out from behind the counter if that's where I was and to them in time to tackle them. They could pick it up and in 1 second they're out the door. So,
but if they steal it, you don't really care that much because you're not going to, the loss isn't going to be that big of a deal.
Right. That's why, just cheap stuff in the front. That's it. And then progressively more expensive as you get towards the back, because in the back cases, they can't steal out of the cases, and then in the tables in front of them, those 2 tables are right next to the counter, so I can get out pretty quickly. And the next tables up are a bit farther, so my more expensive stuff is put towards the back to protect it. It's interesting the things that they make you think of while doing all that. That really is retail. Where this game gets intricate. It really is. But it's fun. It's really satisfying.
So what is the story? How does the campaign go?
That's what I was moving on to next. Will, I think, inherited the shop from his father, who went missing in the dungeons as well. I think same as his grandfather. And there's an old wise man in the village who's always like, well, don't you go into them dungeons. You're going to die. Remember what happened to your pap?
Was his last name Turner?
And so... You're constantly defying that old man and going to the dungeons and beating stuff.
He should be the one giving you the sword. Be like, well, if you're going to go in the dungeon, take this.
Absolutely. But nope, that is not the case. So, I think he gives you a broomstick. That's what you start off with, is a broom.
You can fight with a broomstick?
I think, yes, you can. You can fight with this broom.
That's hilarious.
It works like a spear. So you're traveling through, and while walking through the dungeons, you find the campgrounds, which have notes at them, and you can read the notes. And then also, in every fountain room that heals you, there's typically a note left by the fountain, which you can also read. And so you're reading snippets of people who've been in these dungeons. And at first, the way it sounds like just adventurers just doing their thing. Like, oh, I was attacked by this thing today. It was crazy. Oh, we've discovered this little secret of the place. So, like, if you find a fountain, you're close to the next level. Like, and they're like, because everyone is aware that the dungeons procedurally generate. They're different every time you go in.
So that's canon. That's canon. How it is.
Yes, that is just how it is. Everyone's aware of it. No one knows why it works like that. It's a big mystery. They're like, what is going on? No one knows. And so, like, some of the adventurers were trying to figure that out. And so they'll have notes on that and stuff. But as you get farther along, I think it started to occur to me in the third dungeon, those notes aren't always by the same group of people. It appears as though there are different groups of people in this thing. And it appears as though whoever made the dungeons didn't necessarily make all the creatures that are in the dungeons, that those two people or entities are separate. And some people are in there because they're conducting some kind of experiment. And so it becomes apparent that there's like a higher power, a more intelligent race or beings who are behind some of the monsters in these places and are trying to figure something out. And by the time you get to the fifth dungeon, which isn't really a dungeon, it's just like a big cave where there's a bunch of technology. You find like a whole bunch of dead people with experiments and like weird technology buzzing, and there's computers with more information. Essentially what has happened, I'm spoiling this game, by the way.
Sure.
Essentially what has happened, there are these things called interdimensional pirates who are like these slug slime kind of creatures who've discovered ways to travel through dimensions. And they've decided to use that to their advantage and become pirates and loot places. So they go into different dimensions and loot things.
So aliens, basically.
Yes. They phased themselves into this area where these dungeons are, and kind of got trapped and were trying to get out, but they're also trying to find... What they were trying to do is they were trying to take all this different technology or bits and pieces of things from different dimensions and form powerful like mechs and bodies for their captain to be able to like put his body inside of and control, like a big automaton kind of thing. And so that is what's produced all of the monsters and creatures in the dungeons. And eventually that is who you fight. You fight the captain of this space pirate team in a couple of his different bodies. And once you beat him, an intergalactic like alliance shows up, like the police of the universe and the different dimensions. They pop up and they're like, "Hey, what's going on here? We're here to kill all these pirates and destroy these dungeons." And they're like, "You can't. Will's in there," and then it spits you out. And you chat with them about how you destroyed the pirates and yada yada yada. And you essentially find out that you've been breaking the law this entire time by going into these places and taking this loot because these loot belongs to these other dimensions. And so like they're like, you can't be doing that no more, but good news is now that we're aware that you exist, we'll come back and give you privileges to trade with the other dimensions and things that will make you a part of the alliance of the Trade Federation or whatever it is, so that you can do this legally and such and such and such.
That's crazy. It's like ripping you out of a fantasy world and into a science fiction.
Yeah, it's super nuts. Yes, it's a crazy cool twist.
Is it? I was gonna ask. Is that cool, or did it kind of break the immersion of the dungeon crawling feel?
It was cool to me. I was fine with the explanation. I'm not a big critic of stories in video games. I thought it was interesting. You can still dungeon crawl after that. Like they said, they'll come back in a few days. They haven't come back, but I've only played for like another day or two. So I don't know if there actually is more to it. If there is a different in-game scenario that's coming, I would love it if that's the case. I guess I should research that. Sorry, guys. But But if not, I'm still cool with it. I can still go in and dungeon dive. I can still get stuff and sell things at my shop. It's still fun. It's still a good time. So yeah.
That's really cool. I like that a lot. Like normally, when a fantasy game kind of makes that turn, or even fantasy stories sometimes make that weird turn, unless it's done like really really cool, it just feels jarring and kind of breaks the immersion. But that sounds like, and even in the beginning, the hints kind of geared towards that there's something else going on here than just that. It kind of made me think of Made in Abyss. I don't know if you've seen that anime. About the town that built around the dungeon and everything, but
no,
yeah, it's that's really really cool actually.
That sounds neat. I'll have to give it a look. Made in
well,
Abyss.
it's very very sad and it's also kind of spooky sometimes. So maybe
never mind.
Yeah, maybe not.
I'll watch something happy and nice. Thank you very much.
yeah. I'm actually kind of dreading the second season because I know that it's going to be really more of the same sadness. So.
Well, you let me know how that goes.
Sure.
Another thing about this game is the actual dungeon crawling. When you're in it, you have a bag, so you have an inventory, and you're collecting stuff as you go through, and it begins to stack up, and you can only carry a certain amount of certain things. So like some items you can only carry 5 of in one stack, others you can carry a max of 10, but 10's always like your max. So while you're going through, eventually your bag will fill up. It'll fill up easily, probably by the second floor. So if you're intending to go through the whole thing, you've got to either like cut your losses, see what kind of stuff you can give up. Eventually you get this little mirror that will let you put items into the mirror, and the mirror will consume them and will spit out gold, but it'll only spit out about 1/3 of what they're worth. So you're not getting a whole lot of money, but you are freeing up some space and getting some change. That helps, though, because you get a pendant early on. I think the first thing you get is a pendant that takes money. You'll put in money to it, and it will teleport you back to town. So it's how you get out of the dungeons if you get into a hot spot and you want to get out. And the farther deep you get into the dungeons, the more money it will take to port you out. So like first floor, first dungeon, it's like 200 gold. But like by the time you're in the final dungeon, it's like 3,800 or some nonsense. So,
jeez Louise,
it'll get up there.
That's craziness.
Another thing you get eventually at one point is like this portal, where essentially it costs more than the pendant, usually quite a bit more. But you do it, and then it opens up a door that'll port you back to town. And then you can go back through that portal one more time to that specific spot in the dungeon, rather than resetting the dungeon. Which is good and useful. As you're collecting things in the dungeon, though, like I said, you have to be aware of how much you have, what things you really want to bring back or not. You can put certain things on your wish list, not specific items, but you can put, or not specific loot, you can put specific armor or weapons and such on your wish list. Maybe you can put different loot on your wish list as well. But you can put those things on your wish list, and then it'll mark loot that you need for it. So when you get it, it'll have a star by it. So like, oh, I know I need to take this home. I can't let this get broken or get taken or drop. If you die, you lose everything in your bag except for the top row. The top row is assumed to be like in your pocket, like on your person, and everything else is in your bag. And then you'll lose all that stuff, and then the dungeon will spit you out at the beginning. And that is very annoying. Because sometimes it can happen really.
That sounds horrible.
It can happen real. It's like a game of like, it's like you're betting. You're like you get down, especially early on. You get down, you got like half health, and you have no potions left, and you're like, well, this next room could lock me in, because some rooms will lock you in it until you beat all the monsters and kill me, or it could be the fountain and it'll heal me. Who knows? Let's go. So it's like
you gotta gamble.
It's up to you as whether or not you want to take that bet, which is cool. That's also fun. It adds a bit of extra stress to the game. At this point in the game, nothing can really kill me very quickly. So like I can still die, but only if I'm being really if I'm not being careful. If I'm just being real negligent with my health and such and such. But I can afford very good health potions at this point, and my health is like 1,000, whereas when you start with like 80. or something like that. So
Dang.
I'm doing all right. My main problem now is like how quickly my bag fills up. That's something I wish you could get that you can't. At least I don't see an ability to get.
The bag?
You cannot expand the bag. You can't get any fancy things for the bag. That you can get fancy stuff for like everything else. Like your shop is like totally pimped out, and then you get tons of stuff for the town. But your bag, just nothing. Like you get better armor and better weapons and stuff. But your bag is just your same old bag. And I'm like, this feels like an oversight. But
for other games like this, you kind of expect there to be like pockets that could you use to carry specific items or pouches that would be able to hold more of the same thing.
Absolutely,
that's interesting.
And so certain items you run into are cursed, in that like if you put it in the bag, it's got one of like 8 directional arrows, and it's like whatever it's pointing at when you go back to town, it'll destroy that item in that direction. Or other ones will be like you can only place this on the side of the bag or the top of the bag or the bottom of the bag. And other things are like if you take too many hits, this thing will break. It's fragile. So there's that kind of stuff. Other ones that are good, there's some that'll send other items home. So if you want to get rid of an item that you're worried you might lose, or that is just causing you a little bit of stress because you have to keep it on the side, or you have to make sure it doesn't point at anything or it'll destroy it, you can just send those things home. So some items will be like really nice items, and they'll point to another item, and it'll turn that item it's pointing to into a copy of itself, which is pretty neat. So you can take like this one really nice shiny item and set it next to like 5 junk items, and it'll turn that stack of 5 into a stack of 5 really nice items whenever you go back to town. So that's really cool. And then another one they just have certain ones that'll just literally break curses. So if they're just pointing at a different curse item, it'll just break that curse immediately, so you can rearrange there, which helps out because like some things are dumb. Like you can't stack 2 items that even if they're the same item, you can't stack them if their curse is different. So if you have one item, so if you have one like gold nugget, and it has to be put on the side of the bag, you cannot stack another gold nugget on top of that if it's just basic, if it doesn't have any curse. It has to also have the curse of being stackable, of having to go on the side of the bag. Or if like one gold nugget is for the side of the bag, one gold nugget is for the top of the bag, you can't stack those 2 in the corner or something. It's so like it can get really annoying at a certain point. But it just adds to the satisfaction whenever you get what you're looking for and get it right. It's really cool. So that's fun. Gripes I have. I already talked about the assistant, who I feel should be better. But there's a couple of things. This game's a little bit glitchy. I don't know if it's because it was if like the Switch port just has glitches that the others didn't, like little problems. But like so. I found sometimes I'll just port through the wall, and I'm sitting on the other side of the collisions. It's on the outside of the wall, and I can't go back, and I have to end up porting back to town because that's the only thing that works, which is real dumb. Another thing, sometimes I'll walk through a door, and it's supposed to move you to the next room, like a la Zelda, old Zelda games, and it just won't. It'll register that I've moved into the door, and the door will seal behind me, so I can't go out of it. But then it didn't register that I was supposed to be in the next room, so I'm just hanging out there in the middle of nothing. And yet again, just had to...
That's crazy.
So weird. A lot of problems happen whenever you get hit. So when you get hit, you flash with invulnerability, which is common. But something in the way they're coding it, I don't know if the frame rate's the problem or if it's just whenever the switch happens, if whatever mode it's going into just isn't set up with the collisions as well. But like sometimes you can phase through stuff when you're invulnerable. So like I'll get hit while trying to dodge. So like I'll dodge, I'll get hit while I'm dodging, and then I'll dodge on top of a rock that I'm not supposed to even be able to cross. And so I'll just be hanging out on top of this rock just again unable to move because I'm now on top of a collision, and that's registering me now, but it wasn't registering the collision a split second before, so I was able to squeeze through, and now I'm just stuck. This is real weird. This doesn't happen often. Like, I'm making it sound like that's all over the game. Yeah. It's not.
And I wonder if it's just like a side effect of having a procedurally generated dungeon, because sometimes with those kinds of things, it'll procedurally generate that, yes, there's a physical door here, like the image of a door, but in the code, it won't procedurally generate it until it's like another couple of spaces over.
Yeah. And like,
that's weird.
I guess that could be it, but like, some things, one of the... So earlier I talked about how you only have a certain amount of time to get to quests done. And I was like, it was the night before a quest was due. I'd gone in, I think, during the day. I'd gotten pretty far, and I got like 7 other things I needed of the 10 things that I needed. So I after getting those things, I went through basically the whole dungeon, killed a lot of things, got them. I needed 3 more. So I set up a portal, I went back to town. Actually ported from the boss room. So the boss room just gives you a portal once you beat the challenge there. Ported back to town. Ported back to town at night, dropped off all my stuff so I could have a fresh, clean bag again. Ported back, left the boss room, went into the final room of floor 3 before the boss room, just went back into that room. And so in Moonlighter, there is a mechanic where there are pitfalls, and if you fall through the pit in a room, you will take a little bit of damage, and then you'll pop back up at the door that you came into the room from. through. So some of those pitfalls are hidden floors. So like it's a floor, you'll walk on it, it'll shake a little bit and then fall. It's like an Indiana Jones style kind of thing. So I get into this room, I walk in, and that first bit that you walk into is a floor like that. So I fell through the floor. I was like, oh crap, I'll have to pay attention to that when I come back up. But when I came back up, it generated me above the same tile. So essentially above a hole in the floor. So I had to watch myself fall into the pit countless times to whittle down my HP to kill me to send me back to town. Mind you, I'd just gone back to town, so my health was full. I was at like 700 health. And this takes like 10 to 15 damage when you fall. It's not a lot of damage. And so I had to sit there and just watch my character fall and fall and fall and fall, repeatedly taking damage, and showing back up in the same spot. And then occasionally, there were monsters in the room too who were like running towards me because they sensed me, but they couldn't really hit me. So like occasionally they'd get a hit because they timed it just right. So I'm just falling through the floor, getting pelted by rocks from these enemies, and yeah, I just had to sit there and watch my health deplete very slowly until I died and got sent back to town. And I was like, it was so infuriating. Because again, I didn't pick up any of the 3 things that I need. I just needed 3 more of this one item. Didn't get them. I ported back to the thing and immediately fell into a glitch that killed me slowly.
Now, I was like, if you had gotten those things and then died, you still wouldn't have kept them, though, would you?
If they had been at the top row, I would have kept them.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that does suck.
Which they would have been. Which they would have been, because if I had gotten them first, they would have just filled the first slots, which are in the top.
That sucks.
It was absolutely infuriating. Another dumb little glitch I noticed one time. So, and I have screenshots of this one because it was so funny to me. Went to talk to the blacksmith, and the blacksmith is sitting at essentially like a counter, like a register outside of his house. So it's like he's got like his little blacksmith corner outside of his house. You walk up to the bar there, and you're like, "Hey, I want this thing and this thing." I walked up one day and I just clicked A, like you do, to talk to him, and it didn't talk to him, and instead, I dodge rolled. I ported into his area, so I was just standing next to him in his blacksmith area in his house, on the outside of his house. But it's full of collision items around it, so I can't get back out to where I'm supposed to be. So I'm just hanging out with the blacksmith in his little set. I can still talk to him. I can still buy stuff from him, all that. But I'm next to him now instead of in front of him across the collisions. And I walk to the right, and the collisions aren't set up on all the walls of his house. They're just set up on the barriers. So I can walk just to the right, and I'm on top of his house. So I'm sitting on his roof, looking out over the town, stuck there because I can't get through the collisions again. And I'm like, you're kidding me. So I have 2 screenshots. One, just me next to the the blacksmith, and the other just me on his roof because I was allowed to. And I literally I had to restart the game. I had to start over. I had to go back to not restart entirely, but I had to go back to the title screen into my last save to be able to get out of that. It was so frustrating, but it was really funny. Louise. I was like, man.
I've not seen. It's interesting for a game like this to have so many bugs. Generally, you only see those kinds of things for bugs from like games that are like, that are more. I was gonna say graphically crazy or mechanically crazy, because this is just like a top down. Yeah. Scroller, top down, basically.
Little pixelized, simple thing. But yeah, yep. I think I've probably had about 10 glitches in the time that I played the game. Some of them more annoying than others, as I have explained. But overall, I think despite those glitches, I still enjoy playing this game, which to me says a lot about the game. It's really good. It's still fun. I still play it and still will. So I like it. It's from a developer called Digital Sun. It was published by 11-Bit Studios, and it's really good. It's on literally everything. You can get it on PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, Microsoft, or it's like on PC, and on Apple iOS. So yeah, it's good. It's worth it. It's not a lot of money. It's like $10 to $15 on the eShop on the Switch. So definitely worth it from me. Go play it. It's super fun. And let me know if you find any glitches as well. It's good. It's a good time. So yeah, gets a pass from Ethan.
Yeah, that looks really good.
Mm-hmm. And we also wanted to talk a little bit about Kingdom Hearts 3 in this episode. Because you and I both acquired it recently, and we both played a little bit. I've played... I know I've sat down in front of it for about 2 hours, but I think my thing only says I've played like 50 minutes of gameplay, maybe. Yeah.
So
first impressions, first thoughts?
Just to give you a reference of like how crazy popular this game is, we came there to the Pokemon Go release day here in Natchitoches, and we're in a small town, and there was maybe like 8 or 9 people in front of us in line and everything. And then when we started actually going into it, it's probably maybe like 10 or 15 people. This Kingdom Hearts 3 release had like at least 30, 40 people. I mean, it was
a tiny game.
I didn't know there was that. Yeah, I didn't know that there was that many nerds in this small town, but there was craziness. And they had to separate in different groups. We had like 5 or 6 different groups that they had to separate us in because there were so many of us.
That's nuts.
But yeah, so I've personally, since I've been really busy and everything, like I haven't been able to physically play as much as I'd like to. But Kaylee has been playing a bunch, and I've just been sort of sitting and watching her because, like, I really just kind of got it for her birthday present to begin with, anyway.
Gotcha.
But man, oh man, does this game look awesome! It's just
it looks really good. I think we should say
every time I start playing it.
No spoilers for now. We don't want to spoil anything for anybody listening.
Well, I'd say that too, but honestly, we haven't really gotten that far into it.
No,
I
just
get caught up in all the other crap.
No, I'm still in the first like area. Like it's okay. So if anyone's gonna play this, it's not super spoilery. Just to tell you what happens. Like in the first bit, the first area you're gonna go to is the Hercules area.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's still where I am. I'm not very far. It's great. It's a Kingdom Hearts game. It's what you would expect from it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similar things to previous stuff. You can jump up in the air and glide and do a bunch of crazy combos pretty simply and easily. Kind of button mashy. Utada's song is really good.
It really is. I really love the Skrillex remix thing or whatever, and I love the video, the full video, because it shows all the different storylines of all the games and everything. And I don't know if you've actually taken a chance to like watch the video archive thing about all the games in the beginning. Like at the bottom, it's like archive library or something like that.
Yeah,
it's really, really cool because they like kind of summarize all the games and everything for people who haven't been able to play all of them and everything. And it's
that's
narrated
nice
by,
of them.
It's narrated by the Chirithy from the Kingdom Hearts Key game, the phone game or whatever.
That's cool.
It's so adorable. The voice is so cute. But yeah, that's so I've gotten into the world right after Hercules, and as far as I can tell, there's only 4 worlds in this game. Because that's as many that I'm seeing on the map. There might be more.
I bet you there's more. I'm certain there will be more.
If there isn't, I'd understand, because it seems like each of these worlds has like a large portion of it that you already see, like just throughout the beginning of the game, and then it seems like there's more of it that we have yet to see that we'll see probably either in the next bit of story or all. So it's kind of like Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. Like there isn't too much like huge amount of stuff like specific biomes and everything, but the biomes that you do have themselves are very large, and you can just keep exploring more and more of it.
Yeah,
which I'm all for. I'm excited about that actually.
Yeah, I'm just excited to play it. Like I said, I've only played a couple hours. I've just sat down and played it twice since I bought it Tuesday, played an hour, and then last night I played an hour. It's real good. I like sitting down with my new little game headphones, plug those in so I don't bother my roommates, and I just play. It's real nice. The music's great as it typically is. It looks gorgeous. It's good. It's a good experience.
So the combat is amazing. I really like the combat a lot, and it's funny because in the first world, like, the whole game starts basically from the end of Dream Drop Distance, and in Dream Drop Distance at the end, Sora is like, he finished the Mark of Mastery exam, but he lost his powers from Xehanort from it, and so this kind of is like the rise to fame. And I guess it's obviously just also the excuse for him to start at level 1 again and like build himself up and everything. Yeah. But it's funny to me that like all of his friends are like, oh, he's not at full power, but yeah, he's still like pulling out random new skills and stuff. Like he's calling out attractions and everything.
He gets dogged on by like everyone. Everybody's like, "Oh, sorry, you're so weak right now." And I'm like, "Boy,
he'll come back." I'm like, he just took out the Rock Titan with a train. Like,
I'm gonna kill you. Like Sora. His character doesn't seem to have progressed a whole lot either. He's still very childish, which I forgot how grating it was. I don't really like his childishness, but like also there are a lot of cutscenes. Man.
Yeah. If there's any kind of complaint, it would be that for me, at least so far.
It is that for me. There are too many cutscenes. I just want to play this game.
And I think maybe it's just us building it into that because it's starting to get thinner as you get into the world. But
that's what I would expect and hope. Yeah, I'm sure.
If all you did was just the story, then it's not quite as bad because there's so much stuff to do. So when you get into the next world, you get all this new content. For instance, you get the gummy phone, which is basically Instagram. So you can take selfies. That doesn't sound
fun at all.
You can take pictures and everything, but one of the things that you do is the Moogle shop will let you they'll request that you take pictures of monsters, kind of like the Hyrule Compendium. And by doing so, they'll give you like synthesis items and everything like that. But there's also like Mickey symbols all around the different worlds and everything, and if you take pictures of those, they give you special items as well, and if you collect them all, you get an unlockable item or weapon or accessory or whatever. So
gosh, I hope that's not the way you get like the Ultima Keyblade. That'd suck.
No, I think the Ultima Keyblade is still through synthesis, because not only is there synthesis in what we know from synthesis from Kingdom Hearts 2, but there's also Keyblade upgrades. So each Keyblade has 10 levels, and as you synthesize them more and more, they get stronger and stronger. Which
crap!
Is really
I'm going to be
cool.
playing this game forever, Scott.
I know, it's great. It's so good.
That's absurd.
But what's I think the coolest part about them is that there's no like drive form in the sense of drive forms. Each Keyblade has its own form that unlocks to them, and so as you level
can I
up
dual
the
wield
Keyblades,
still?
No, but you can switch keyblades in the middle of combat, so you can transition between one and the other. So if I wanted to be in defender mode, I would hold out the Hercules, and then if I want to go back into second form, I'd switch back to the Kingdom Blade. But I can do it simultaneously in different forms, and it makes the combat pretty darn cool. And then like you get that, like I said, second world, and they're still dogging on Sora, and I'm like, dude.
Yeah, no, I don't understand it yet. I hate that. I hate that crap.
It
like,
sucks so bad.
Bro, step off. Sora has done more than any other human being or person in this entire game for the universe. Like, where would y'all be? Where would you be?
He really has. He's so, and it's so crap. But I do like that it seems like Sora has learned or picked up all of the things that other Keyblade masters have. So you got the shot lock commands, you get the drive forms, you get the link commands, you can summon the Dream Eater things or whatever. Like all the things you could have done in all the other Kingdom Hearts games, he still knows, he still picks up. Like the flow motion, that kind of crap, that's so fun. And it just makes things look so good. I don't know if you've seen if you've picked up like food ingredients and everything.
I literally all I've been doing is smashing Heartless in Hercules Land. I haven't even gotten to a boss. The only boss I fought was a tutorial boss, and that thing almost killed me because I'm playing in proud mode, and I was like, "Whoo!"
Yeah, me too.
I've expected to die a lot more, but I have not died yet. And I'm like, all right, I'm doing
proud
okay.
mode's the only way to play it for me.
Apparently,
there's sometimes where you'll break boxes and it brings you like food, like apples or pears or mushrooms or whatever, and that's for in Twilight Town. There's a restaurant. The Ratatouille restaurant is in Twilight Town, and what's cool is that it starts off as just like your basic restaurant and everything, but as you make stuff with the rat, as you bring in ingredients and everything and create new recipes. I don't remember the rat's name.
He has a name, Scott.
I know, but I don't remember
his name either.
So, but geez, I'm not even going to try to dig in there for that information. But
it's okay.
As you follow the recipes, it makes a menu for your restaurant, and it increases your restaurant's ranking, so people can come and buy more stuff. And so, like, there's a little bit of that Final Fantasy 15 aspect of it, where he's like, haha, I've come up with a new recipe, kind of thing, and you're like, this is so good. Like, there's a lot of like Final Fantasy 15 like similarities, especially with like the Instagram snapshot stuff, because you can save these photos and then like check on them later and everything. And
his name is Remy, by the way. I was right.
Remy. Okay.
I should probably play Final Fantasy 15.
He's cool.
Did I buy that? No, I didn't buy that. I bought something else.
Freaking good. And especially if you're going to get it now, get the Royal Edition for PlayStation 4. I haven't gotten it because I've already got all like the stuff
Royal
that
Edition.
It has anyway.
That's good to know.
The Royal Edition comes with all the DLC and all the other bonus stuff and everything, but like I already have that, so it just was defeat the purpose of me getting that. Plus it also has patch stuff in it as well, so like it fixes a lot of the bugs and everything that happen. So that's good.
Sounds great to me, sir.
Freakishly good. I mean, honestly, I have a lot of great. So, like in the beginning, I just felt like I don't know. Like I was like, is this just the nostalgia? Like, am I just feeling this because of nostalgia? Like, is this just the way it is? Because I'm a big Kingdom Hearts fan. I'm a nerd. But the more I just play it, the more me and Kaylee have been watching and playing and everything, we're just like, this just fits in the series. It just feels like a great Kingdom Hearts game.
That's cool. I'm excited to play more.
And the only gripe I could possibly come up with is the excessive cutscenes, and then also like some of the language. Like obviously it's geared towards their character types and everything, but there's a lot of like, you can do it, and friendship is the best.
It does seem very childish, and I'm like, who is this for? Like, were you trying to pull in a new audience? Because the people who are playing, the people who've been waiting for this, are all. At the very least, even if they were born when Kingdom Hearts 2 came out, they'd still be 15. Like, we're all adults. What is this language? Like, it was very strange. But I guess maybe they're just trying to stick to character norms. I don't know, but like, I feel like there'd be a lot more maturity in some of them. But whatever, who cares? Yeah. I'm still gonna play. I don't care about cutscenes anyway, so I'm still just gonna play.
I don't feel like I don't think I've even like I don't feel like I've even scratched the surface of like the content that this game provides since I've just been in the first two worlds, and so that's what really excites me the most. Well, yeah, but I think that's what excites me the most is that like there's so much to do, and like I can't wait to start getting into the synthesis and creating that ultimate Keyblade, because if the Kingdom Key gets pretty OP with its leveling and everything, I can only imagine what level 10 Ultimate Blade's going to look like. Freaking heck. So
that's sweet. Well, cool. You'll definitely hear more from us listeners about Kingdom Hearts. We'll probably have, I imagine we might have like a midway check-in and then like a full review. It's likely what we'll do because just the size of the game.
Have you talked about the Kingdom Hearts series on this show before?
No, because I'm not really an authority at all. David knew more about it. I imagine you probably you would certainly know more than me. I've only played the 2 core games prior to this, so Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. I've only beaten 2.
Jeez Louise.
I didn't even own 1 until a couple months ago when I bought the 1.5 and 2.5 remixes. So yeah, I mean I like it. I don't know a whole lot. I've had it explained at me. Kind of. So, like, I have a vague understanding of things. I know more or less Sora's story, but, like, I don't really care. It's pretty. It's a whole lot of fun to play, and I can go into different Disney movies, and it's really cool. It's fun. It's a good time. I'm obviously, this is a very popular game. I'm impressed at how it still isn't. Like it seems like it would be more popular than it is, to be honest with you, because there's still plenty of like. I feel like more people who are into Disney would be into this game if they knew what it was. Yeah. But like you can go into Disney movies and play like a different storyline with these characters, and like beloved characters from all of the Disney animated films, and like that's dope. Like there's so many like adults my age I know that love Disney, and I'm just like, you ever play Kingdom Hearts? And they're like, what's that? And I'm like, who are you? Like, wow.
Yeah. Where did you come from?
Yeah, it's anyway. But yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll introduce it to some more people and see. But it's good. You'll hear more about it.
It definitely spells out a lot of that story that's missing, especially for people like for people like you that have only played the first 2, or maybe even just the second one. Yeah. Because if the information's there, but I think that what the great thing about at least the beginning of the story here is that it doesn't rely too heavily on the old content. It's just kind of like, something bad happened. The hero has to build up his power and defeat the bad things,
which is what I would expect. Like honestly, because I played 2 long after I had played 1, and I didn't I knew Sora's name, and I knew who Riku was, and Goofy, and Donald, and that was about all I really needed to know. Like I for these games, I feel like you can just shut off, play them, enjoy the graphics, and not have to worry too much about the story. If you want to, you can. The story's there for you to delve into if you absolutely want to, but you don't really have to, and I like that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, why don't we talk about what we're going to be nerding out to this week outside of Kingdom Hearts, or anything you've gotten into recently? We'll just start us off, Scott.
Actually, I think Kingdom Hearts is going to be it for the most part. To be honest, I really want to get into the Sabrina show. At least try the first couple episodes and just start to see what all the hype is about. There is a couple of animes that I need to get caught up on, like The Promised Neverland and the Sword Art Online's newest season and everything. I think even I feel like I'm still behind a little bit on the Attack on Titan series, which is doing amazingly, by the way. I don't know if have you followed any of it, but
I haven't watched anything past season 1. Yeah, I know it's up.
This third season's going crazy good. So
cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of anime on my list that I need to get started, but this semester's been like kicking my trash. So
yeah, I feel you, bro. I was there. You got it. We believe in you, Scott. We're all here for you. I have had the noblest of intentions to start The Punisher on Netflix, but I just haven't.
Oh, really? I figured you would have at least a couple episodes under your belt.
No, my free time is non-existent, man. Like, I've had to really try to put in the 2 hours that I have into Kingdom Hearts. So I've done that. I'm slowly watching a little bit more of Voltron Season 8. I'm still not done with that, if that gives you any idea of how little time I have.
Jeez.
So I'll probably finish that first before starting anything else. Because I did start some other things while I was on like vacation, like over Christmas break, and then when I was at PAX, and now I'm back into my normal grind, and I just can't continue them, and it bothers me. So I'll find time for some things at some point, but that's where I'm at. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else for me. Now that I finished Moonlighter, I can focus on Kingdom Hearts. I think that's what I'm going to do. I might play something else because like I can't bring my PS4 to work, but I can bring my Switch to work. So I might do something else on my Switch for a bit. I might get back into Starlink, which is what I was playing before I got Moonlighter.
Which has gotten some pretty decent reviews too, and I've been watching some of the videos
Starlink?
for that.
It's fun. I enjoyed it.
It looks really good.
It wasn't bad. It's just that Moonlighter was more addicting. And
it's very compelling for sure,
and more snackable. Like I could open Moonlighter for
snackable,
right? Like I can open Moonlighter for 20 minutes and get something definitively done. Whereas in Starlink, I could spend 20 minutes just trying to figure out where I should be going because it's immense.
And not to mention you start a mission and then like don't realize how long it's going to take you to beat it, but you don't want to stop halfway through.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I get that. That makes sense.
But yeah, I think I'll get back into that. But yeah, that's about it for me. Thanks everybody for listening. We appreciate it very much. If you could give us a like or comment or subscribe or any of that nonsense, review would be great. We appreciate it. Let us know if you've played Moonlighter, if you found any glitches like I did, or how you liked it. And let us know if you're excited about Kingdom Hearts 3 and what you've been playing and what your favorite part about it thus far is. You can tell us that on Twitter at TMYKPod, or you can hit us up through Gmail at thosenerdsyouknowpod@gmail.com. Also, head on over to our Facebook page. Give us a like there. You can find the podcast on YouTube, on Podbean, CastBox, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. That's about it. My name is Ethan.
My name is Scott.
And we are Those Nerds You Know. Bye.